Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Autumn 2021 Purbeck Live. A lot's happened since our last live event in January of this year. Lockdowns, lockdown easing, many tears, and the usual summer policing challenges to cope with. Things are starting to appear a little bit more normal, with no COVID restrictions and just about everywhere open, even if wearing a mask indoors is still a good idea. So from a policing perspective in Purbeck, the rhythm of the seasons are still somewhat disrupted, and the usual patterns of criminal behaviour have yet to reassert themselves, which I think some people would say is probably a good thing. One aspect of that, and a frequent concern to the people of Purbeck, is antisocial behaviour, and that's the subject of tonight's Purbeck Live. Contrary to what some of you, or some would have you believe, the reported levels of ASB in Purbeck are historically low. The team have worked hard with partners to come up with some innovative solutions, and we're using what we call an evidence-based approach, which I think some people will call common sense. The force has adopted ASB as a priority under Operation Relentless. All reports of antisocial behaviour are reviewed by the neighbourhood teams and recommendations applied. So with our limited resources, this has meant that we can target those areas causing the most concern and the most risk to our residents. So please do look for that hashtag on our social media, hashtag #OpRelentless, and report any incidents using the address scrolling below me at the moment, using 101@dorset.pnn.police.uk, or on 999 if it's an emergency. So, on to our guest tonight. You'll be relieved to hear that I won't be yapping for the entire time, and you get to hear some real speakers. So we're joined by Kate and Claire from Astor Housing Partnership. There they are there. And then following them by Paul and Steve from Dorset and Wiltshire Fire and Rescue. There they are waving away there. And then finally by our very own PCSO, Dave Hamilton. Dave's keeping the station warm. Thank you very much. And so we will, of course, be answering any your pre-submitted questions, as well as the ones that come in during the broadcast. So if you've got a question for us about anything that's said tonight, please do get typing in the comments below. And just remember to put hashtag ASK before your comment, just so we know to pick it out of the general chatter. So now on to our first guests, Kate and Claire from Astor Housing. And they're going to talk about how housing associations can help their residents suffering antisocial behaviour and what to do if you're one of them. So, Kate and Claire, over to you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. It's great to be here. My name is Claire Seymour, as you can see, and I'm the Antisocial Behaviour Manager for the Astor Group. The antisocial behaviour team use a variety of tools and powers to find solutions and provide guidance to partners in our communities to resolve cases of antisocial behaviour. We attend safeguarding boards and, importantly, the Dorset Domestic Abuse Forum. The antisocial behaviour team, they aim to prevent and respond to reports of antisocial behaviour, supporting victims, survivors and witnesses, and protecting those within our community who are at most risk of harm. We have a real focus on partnership work with Dorset Police to contribute to keeping Dorset a safe place to live. I'll just hand over to Kate now, who is a member of the team who covers the area.
Hello there, thank you. My name's Kate, as Claire said, and I'm an antisocial behaviour officer covering the Purbeck area. Being an antisocial behaviour officer can be extremely challenging, yet unbelievably rewarding. The ASB team at Astor often deal with some extremely high-risk cases and have huge impacts upon victims and the community. I work alongside 3 other ASB officers in Dorset, and each officer has their own patch and work closely with neighbourhood officers who have good knowledge of the community. We rely on informal measures to address complaints of antisocial behaviour, such as, for example, acceptable behaviour contracts, mediation or parenting agreements. As a last resort, we'll look to also utilise legal measures such as injunctions or presenting to a judge in court to request possession of a property. All measures are undertaken in a proportionate manner and with consideration to impact on the victim and wider neighbourhood. We acknowledge we can't do this on our own, so we will often work with specialist agencies, including the police, who have community protection tools of their own. Additionally, we engage with the local authority, fire service, healthcare professionals, social services and probation to identify what may be required to support people and seek to resolve cases to ensure people can live peacefully in their homes. If you're an ASTA tenant or experiencing antisocial behaviour issues with an ASTA household, you can call our contact centre, who will take details of your concern and pass it to the ASB team.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. I'd just like to add to that I've worked with both Claire and Kate. Kate sits on our partnership and coordinating group, which meets every few weeks. Both valuable partners, both been really, really useful in solving some persistent issues. So thank you so much to both of you for that. And I'm sure your residents will be reassured by what you've said. So Kate and Claire will stay online. And if you've got any questions for them, please submit them in the comments below with hashtag ASK ask before the comment. So we've got some pre-submitted questions, which I'll delve into now. They're mostly directed towards the police. And so the first question is from Steve McMaster. Hi, do you run Q&As around Litchip with Travers? We all know how hard pressed you are these days, but it'd be good to see you every 1 to 3 months. Now we have provided a bit of an answer in the comments to that, but just to expand on that, the team do local events, engagement events. That's normally the PCSOs, and they will tie those events to where there's the most risk, the most crime, or for particular reason to prevent crime, or there's some other reason there. I've got Dave with me tonight. Dave covers the north area. I'm just going to put him on the spot slightly and just ask Dave if we do have any events planned over there within the next month or so.
We don't, but we can certainly plan one, either through the library or near the doctor's surgery. We can do a street corner meeting outside Tesco's, or something on the football pitch, out in the open for people. If they want to come and visit us, they can do. Okay, that's brilliant. And Dave's clearly more on the ball with me to do with Litchip with Travers. So thanks very much for that. Hopefully that answers your question there. And do we have another one? This is from Sue Davis. E-scooters zoom around pavements, nearly knocking people over. I understand they are illegal, so what are you doing around their use? And this is one of those emotive issues. E-scooters at the moment are illegal to ride in public places, on roads, because you can't insure them, you can't MOT them, but they do actually count as motor vehicles. You can still buy them because they're legal to use off-road on private land. And what we do, if we do find people on e-scooters in public places, is there's a graded approach. Because they're a relatively new thing, and I appreciate everyone should probably know the law a little bit by now, but because they're a relatively new thing, people will get a written warning first and get their details stored on a database to say they've had that warning. If we come across them again and they're using that e-scooter, then it will be seized in the same manner that we might seize other motor vehicles that are driving without insurance. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of reassurance there. We do obviously have other things that we concentrate on as well. But if we see that is something we would deal with if we come across it in the street. Thank you, Sue. Thanks for that question. And I think we've probably got time. How many more questions have we got? I think it's 2 or 3. Okay, so the next one from J Dowland 1. Hello, just seen your post about antisocial behaviour. Do you have an email address for reporting ASB within Purbeck? On the Dorset Council website, the ASB email address does not cover where and postcodes. I haven't seen the Dorset Council website. However, I would say that if it is reporting directly to Dorset Council and it is within Purbeck, so anywhere from Upton to Bear Regis to Lulworth to Swanage, then that's within the Dorset Council area, and you can probably report antisocial behaviour there. The other option, of course, is to report it to the police. And that you can do through either our normal reporting means on the website, through 101@dorset.pnn.police.uk, or by calling 999 if there's a crime occurring or if it's some sort of other emergency where someone is at risk. And I gather we've got one more question to go, and then we're going to have a little presentation from the fire service.
So this is a question from Sarah Priest. Hi there, question for you. What is Dorset Police's view on the use of ABCs, ASBs or CBOs for children? Do you support their way of dealing with ASB, or are there other ways you could give a more supportive approach? I would sometimes question a child's ability to really understand and be able to change their behaviour without help from others. Thanks. And so that's clearly a question from someone who knows their stuff, because they're using all the right terminology there. I suppose the answer to that is that all of those measures, ABCs, ASBs, CBOs, are not sanctions that are taken lightly. They're normally typically at the end of a chain of behaviour where other more supportive interventions have taken place. And even within those particular quite restrictive items, so an ASB, for example, is a civil injunction that controls someone's behaviour, and a CBO is a criminal behaviour order that controls someone's behaviour after conviction. Even within those quite restrictive conditions, there can be supportive elements to that. So to attend drug and alcohol therapy, to improve their life in some way. It's not just going to be not to do this and not to do that. In terms of using them with children, that is more challenging. In almost any interaction we have with children, especially an official one, we will want an appropriate adult there, and the appropriate adult's role is to make sure they understand those things. So, sorry, I've just seen in our own internal comments there that there is a community safety team at dorsetcouncil.gov.uk just in relation to the previous question. But I hope that answers your question, Sarah. And so now we're going to be moving on to Stephen and Paul from Dorset and Wiltshire Fire and Rescue. The last 18 months has presented some significant challenges to the fire service, and I'm sure you'll all remember the devastating heath fire in Wareham Forest last year, which caused huge damage over a wide area and used up so many resources, not just from the fire service, but also from police colleagues and others. So, Stephen, Paul, over to you.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting us on this platform, and it's nice to speak to Purbeck residents direct, as it were. I'd just like to introduce me. I'm a firefighter at Wareham Fire Station. My name's Paul, and we have the pleasure tonight of our station commander, Steve Nicole. What we wanted to try and get across a few points today is really about fire safety, particularly when Christmas is really, a couple of months away. And people tend to overload their sockets with all the Christmas tree lights and all the decorations. And we'd like to try and just remind everybody, please just don't overload your sockets. And also with that big Christmas meal that we all have, obviously, please don't leave any cooking unattended throughout the year, because that's when we see sometimes a few fires in the kitchen, and they can be really devastating. The other thing is, because winter's coming and we're all looking forward to that type of weather, if you've got a wood burner or an open fire in your house, remember, please get your chimney swept now and get that chimney well maintained. It's so important, particularly if you've got one of our beautiful Dorset thatched cottages. We don't want to be going out to a thatched cottage, because they are absolutely very, very destructive if they have a fire. And also, the best advice we can possibly give you tonight is please have a working smoke alarm or a CO2 alarm for your open fires, wood burners, gas boilers, and even your oil burners. That is the best advice we can give you tonight, is get a smoke alarm. And then we call it Test It Tuesdays. And every Tuesday, what we need you to do is test that smoke alarm.
Okay, thanks, Paul. I'll just follow up what Paul said there. Just say hi, I'm Steve again. Paul and I work in the fire station, so primarily we are response. We don't have a great deal to do with antisocial behaviour, which is obviously the topic for tonight. So I won't drone on for too long. I will say, following what Paul said about smoke detectors and CO2, is that we actually offer a service called Safe and Well, where we have specialist members come out and we can educate people in their home how to stay safe, with a range of things, but obviously including fire. We can issue smoke detectors, we can offer carbon monoxide detectors, and also advice on how to stay safe should you have a fire in the home. And I wouldn't be doing this right if I didn't also mention recruitment here at Wareham Fire Station, because obviously we're talking to the Purbecks. So if you do live within Wareham Fire Station, you can give us certainly covered during the working week. Please consider applying. Information on both those topics can be found on our website, dwfire.org.uk. Thank you.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. I'll be a bit concerned that half of my team are going to apply to be a retained firefighter now, and it'll be hard to get them to go out to jobs. But no, that's brilliant. Thank you both, and obviously thank you to all your colleagues do to keep us safe. And just as a little reminder, because we've only got one live question so far, there's quite a reasonable chance that you'll be able to put us on the spot this evening. If you have got any questions for Steve and Paul, for Kate and Claire at Astor, for myself, or for Dave on my team, then please write a comment below and put hashtag ASK in front of it. Because as I say, we've only got one question so far, and we'd really quite like to give out some more information and help you as much as we can. So for our last presentation this evening then, I'd like to introduce Purbeck's very own Dave Hamilton. Dave works for Wareham and is part of the Purbeck North team, and is going to give you an insight into how we work together to solve sometimes endemic and destructive antisocial behaviour issues. Dave, over to you.
Thank you. So what do? We are the neighbourhood policing team. We patrol areas that have had or have ASB. We class these as our hotspots, and as such, we increase patrols in these areas. Some of our recent hotspots have been around shop fronts in Upton and some parts across the patch. How do we do it? So we receive a report through the 101 hotline of ASB, and sometimes from an individual, or other occasions, multiple people causing an issue at a location. We may attend and deal with the individuals there and then, but sometimes the problem can be a bit bigger and require a different approach. We would then target that location with increased patrols, use of social media to highlight we are around, to reassure the public that it is okay to visit these areas and not be put off by the individuals causing the antisocial behaviour. We carry out foot, cycle and car patrols to ensure the area is well covered. We have before opened street corner meetings where you can come and meet us. These have proved popular in the past. We like to engage with the public face to face. We did an operation in Upton regarding the co-op 18 months ago, where they had a lot of ASB out the front of the site. They were going in, stealing things, causing antisocial behaviour, saying nasty things to people that work there, causing a lot of disruption. That put a strain on resources through Paul and Purbeck, both responding to sort of 999 calls and through the ASB hotlines. So we targeted it. We did a street corner meeting outside co-op twice in the evenings. We met with the management, we met with the area management, we met with the landlord of the property to discuss what we could do. The outcome of that is we had the gates installed, we increased our patrols, and over the next few weeks and months, the ASB stopped. I'm not saying it's gone completely, but we don't seem to have as many issues there as we did have before. So that is a positive for us. To target a location, we do require help from other partner agencies. The council have ASB officers, as we've shown tonight, that can provide us with support around premises and what we can do to change the situation of gathering of people causing the ASB. This can sometimes be a financial input, setting up new things for people in the community, like lights or CCTV. We also work closely with housing officers. Working together, we can help local areas and get the best for them and target the areas that may cause issues. They can support us in our role to ensure the residents are safe and do not feel vulnerable in the area where ASB could be an issue. We have many success stories with ASB being eliminated in some areas. We don't stop there. We continue to patrol and engage with businesses affected. And if we have repeat offenders, we deal with them robustly, working with the council, housing and response officers. Moving forward, if you have any ASB in your area, then feel free to contact the 101 via the email. And that's really it from me with Purbeck.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you, Dave. I think that just gives us a little bit of an insight as to the sometimes mystical world of what we get up to in neighbourhood policing. And, you know, and Dave, you really kind of reminded us that we can't do this by ourselves. So we've got to do it with the cooperation of partners who are specialists in their fields. You know, we've got to do it with the council, and, you know, and even with just the community coming together. And I think that's why we run those events that I know Steve asked in one of the questions earlier on for Litchfield Matravers, but that, you know, we get people together, we find out what's going on, because sometimes these problems are a little bit hidden. And I think that's a bit of a reminder, possibly, that we can only solve problems that we're aware of. And I would urge people not to fall into that trap of thinking that there's no point in reporting something to us because we won't deal with it. We obviously have to triage what we deal with the most at risk to start off with, to perhaps the least risky at the end. But things don't get forgotten. It gets logged, and if there is a problem emerging and there's work that needs to be done, then we will deal with it. And it's not a perfect world, but the work that Dave and his colleagues do is really, really effective once we know there's a problem, and, you know, once we can form a strategy around it. So please do report those things. And just a reminder that you can do that through our website. It's probably much quicker than calling 101, but doing it through the website form, emailing 101@dorset.pnn.police.uk, or obviously 999 if it's happening right there, right now. There's a crime being committed and it's an emergency. So now onto the part you've undoubtedly all been waiting for. I gather we've got a few questions waiting for us. And so I'm waiting for the first one now just to pop up on the screen. So we've got one from Thomas Anderson saying, oh, he's good. Use the ASK. That's brilliant. Thank you. Hi, these live Q&As are great. Thank you very much, Thomas. Will, you can come back. Are other teams across Dorset going to do the same? Also, are your senior officers going to get involved? Thank you. So I know that certainly the teams within the BCP area, that they've had several of these. I believe there has been a Q&A at for North and East Dorset as well. And so I suppose maybe the challenge now is to get that out west. I think it's something that's evolving. We've got something that we're committed to through what we call our neighbourhood engagement commitments, which are published on the website. We're now committed to increasing digital engagement, of which this is part, and it can reach a whole lot more people than perhaps traditional engagement, although it does, you know, some people it can't. So we're never going to totally go away from that. So I know Weymouth have had one as well. It will only be an increasing area of business for us. So I'm just going to throw that open slightly. So Steve and Paul, is this something you think you could see the fire service becoming involved in perhaps a little bit more in the future?
Yeah. I think it's always good to get some messages out, definitely, and obviously it's great to sort of work with the public as well.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's good. I know that I know that previously other organisations such as BCP have done very, very similar things. So it's only going to be an increasing area, and I'm sure, unfortunately, you can probably see a lot more of our faces on the internet in the future. So hopefully that answers your question there. I'm just waiting for the next one to pop up. Okay, from Lewis Mann, once again, using that hashtag, thank you. What can you do to reassure the residents of the Purbecks that they will be receiving acceptable police response to emergency calls when officers will soon be responding from either Ferndown or Blandford? I mean, that's a really good question, and obviously got some knowledge of some of the changes perhaps going on in Dorset Police at the moment. I would say that our uniform response is always evolving. In the last sort of couple of years, the response function based at Wareham has been managed from Poole, although there's always been officers based at Wareham, and that won't change in the future. There may be temporary periods where there'll be less officers there and they'll be transferred from elsewhere, but there will always be some sort of response function within Purbeck. And that's probably the best reassurance I can give, really. We still have neighbour policing teams. We have one based at Swanage. I know there's a bit of a perception, perhaps, from some quarters in Swanage that there are no police there. There's a policing team based in the town hall annex. We still have our neighbour policing team based at Wareham as well. So there will always be police officers there. And patrol officers aren't the only ones that respond. We have armed response vehicles that regularly patrol Purbeck. We also have traffic units, dog units, a whole cornucopia of other support as well. So you will not be left alone to fend for yourselves. Hopefully that answers your question. What have we got next? Okay, from Beverly Beck. Oh, this is good. I can palm this on to Dave then here. So Dave, what would you say is the most important part of being a PCSO and how they work together with the police? And I'm assuming that means kind of uniformed, regular police officers there.
Yeah, we work very, very closely with response officers, really. Sometimes we go to jobs and we support them in their roles. I find rewarding for myself, just helping people and engaging with the public. Is quite good. But yeah, the response officers and us, we just work together. And that's the same with traffic and dogs and all sorts. So yeah.
Okay. And just as I suppose an additional question to that, in case anyone was thinking of becoming a PCSO or going through the arduous process of becoming a regular officer, not that the PCSO process isn't arduous, but Dave, what would you say was the most rewarding part of your job? What's the best part of your day? Apart from doing things like this.
Yeah, I love this. It's brilliant. I think it's just being out there and having a presence in the public domain. We get to see a lot of people. We get waved at. It's just rewarding to see the good side of policing, I suppose, rather than not the not so good side of it. So yeah, it's rewarding when people come up to you and say, it's good to see you, and we're there engaging and making them feel better. So when you're doing something good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Dave. Okay, so we may or may not have another question. I'm going to wait for it to appear. No, I'm being told that we're finished. So the comments will still be open for another day or two. So we will, if anybody has any other questions they haven't thought of, it's like being asked if you've got any questions at the end of a presentation. You always think of them afterwards. Please do put them in the comments and we will provide a written reply in there. And otherwise, that's it for another Purbeck Live. So we hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you for being engaged and posing us some interesting questions, clearly with some insider knowledge and some professionals asking us some probing questions there. If there are any we haven't managed to answer, like I've said, please do put them in the questions below, and we'll, for the next couple of days, we'll provide written answers to those. So I'd like to thank you. I'd like to thank everyone that's joined us this evening. It's been really, really good. And I'd like to thank our guest speakers. So Claire and Kate from Astor Housing, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's Stephen Paul from Dorset and Wiltshire Fire and Rescue. And that's PCSO Dave. It's good that it happened right before the end. And as well as Dave from Purbeck Police. And just in addition to that, they're not going to come up on the screen unless they really want to, but Dom, Emily and Pete behind the scenes who have been doing all the magic and making this sort of thing possible. So thank you all again, and that's good night from all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.